Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 73 of the All in Football Fantasy Premier League show podcast. I'm your host, the self proclaimed FPL guru, Alex Rex, and joining me today are my usual suspects of Scott Williams, who I can actually see. Scott, how are you?
Yeah, a little treat for the YouTube watchers there. Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Just as you can see, very, very relaxed.
I think you're currently doing your research on your phone, from what I can see there for this
I'm
podcast.
bringing my notes up from all my preparation I've done.
Barry, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. And obviously, another one for the YouTube fans, me in my Welsh shirt. After going to the lovely game, friendly Wales versus South Korea, we only had 4 shots on target.
Hey, well worth going.
But didn't
mate,
you? Didn't you just beat Latvia?
Yeah, but
Yeah. Does Marin Pahas still play for them?
probably manager, I think.
Probably is the manager, actually. Well, thank you very much for everyone for joining us. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms, UnfootPod, UnfootP, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Don't forget to like the video on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, and also give us 5-star ratings where you get your podcast from. 5 stars, big 5, and that'd be great. So thank you ever so much for everyone for tuning in. So today we're going to cover wildcards generally, and just talk about the fixtures moving forward. Have a little look at the season overview and other times and opportunities where you could potentially wildcard if you're not going to do it now. Do our 5-a-side differential draft teams. We got some good traction last time. Thank you everyone who took part in that and replied to especially Baz's post on Facebook. People seem to really enjoy that feature, so we're going to keep going with that. We've got some conversation about draft and what to do with the people that we described as season keepers who might not be performing so much. And then we're going to finish off with a bit of England chat and maybe a bit of Wales chat for all the people that are still here in about 40 minutes time. So let's get started by having a look at, I've got loads of pictures, by the way, this week. You'll like this. And I've got Ben Crellin. You excited, Scott? Ben's up.
Oh, he's back in the Krellmeister.
He is back. So we did have some news over the international break that there'll be a double game week in game week 7. The big, mighty Burnley versus Luton. It's a huge double game week for those guys. Interestingly, though, one point about it is that if people don't wildcard this week and they end up wildcarding in game week 8, they might get a couple of those players in for giggles because you can dead end your team into that. But the point of doing this overview is to show you we've got another mini 4 game weeks now before an international break. And between each of these game weeks, there are matches for basically everyone. So if I go to the good old Lego Mane, who you should always give a follow to on Twitter because he does some really good graphics, you can see here that teams like Manchester City, for an example, Arsenal, Man United, Newcastle, Liverpool, Brighton, and Aston Villa, and West Ham all have a game every single midweek between the next 4 Premier League fixtures and then the international break. So you can see here that there are basically no spaces for any of the teams that are in Europe. If let's say, for example, all the teams that are in Europe still make it through to the Carabao Cup 4th round, which I don't know if that's possible or not. Some might be playing each other, but then they will not have any free midweeks until the next international break after game week 12. So we need to. This is where Mr. Pep with his roulette is going to start kicking in a lot more, I think, with just a little annoyances of dropping the minutes here and there. Arteta will probably do the same, considering he just is a mini Pep, isn't he? Let's be honest. Ten Hag doesn't rotate, so I won't worry about that too much. He likes to flog his team until they can't run anymore, I think. And also, unfortunately, they're dropping like flies for reasons we're not going to discuss on this podcast. But yeah, there's some bad times there. Newcastle will start to see a little bit more about what team's going to be playing in the Champions League. Liverpool, how strong are they going to go in the Europa League? Same with Brighton, same with Villa, and obviously same with West Ham. So yes, here is the overview of that. So let's get into wildcard chat because a lot of people have been discussing doing a wildcard game week 4, this international break into game week 5. And I think the best place to start will just be by have a look at your wildcard team, Baz, that you sent in. Let's just start there, shall we?
Yeah, go on then.
Because I think it'll bring up some talking points for different teams. that we might need to mention and talk about. So, for podcast listeners, tell me who you've got on your team.
So I've gone for two keepers, obviously. It's Turner for Forest and Sanchez. I think the balance between them two are good. I think there's only one fixture all the way up to like game week 17 where they both play tough fixtures. So I think obviously that's a good option to just rotate them too. But Trippier back in because Newcastle's fixture is looking good. And I think he's going to be a good asset. I was going to potentially get Trent Alexander-Arnold in as well, but obviously with the funding, I could use that money elsewhere. But he's obviously got a hamstring injury as well, so it was a bit difficult. Gone for Cash because he's looking really good attacking-wise, and obviously he's a good potential rotation option if I wanted to play three at the back with Wan-Bissaka. Gusto as well. Obviously Chelsea's got a good run of fixtures, and Kabore is a cheap option for a 4 million. Midfield wise, I've got Scotsman Gordon in there. He's obviously looked really good for Newcastle, and obviously with Newcastle's fixtures going forward, I think he's going to be the main point scorer because Isaac and Wilson are not rotating the centre forward role between them. Rashford, Salah, and Mbeumo and Sterling to finish off the midfield. And then forwards, I've gone obviously for Haaland and Højlund, and also Morrisk, because I think Luton's got a good fixtures, and I like the look of him. He looks a good player. He's got stick for being obviously a bit of a target man, but I think he's got more about him than that. I think I feel sorry for him sometimes because some of the movements he makes just doesn't get the ball, and I think he looks a good option going forward with Luton's fixtures.
Scott, anyone on here that sticks out to you as pretty obvious, and also maybe sticks out to you as we won't go for them?
I don't mind it, actually. I really wanted to poke a lot of holes in it, but it's okay. I think for me, I get the Newcastle thing for Trippier. I would just be a little bit worried because they're embarking into Champions League, which it starts pretty shortly, doesn't it? Which might be a rotation risk because he's not getting any younger. Is Kieran Trippier, but also then you've got to be looking at sort of the leakage that may come with that. The leakage, what an awful thing to say.
It's horrible.
There's obviously there's one there's a name that sticks out, isn't there? That's rolling the dice a bit, which is Højlund. I don't mind it. I'm guessing he's fairly cheap.
7 mil.
7 mil, yeah. He looked okay, didn't he, when he came on against Arsenal? He's going to start, you would have thought, because as we know, Rashford plays better off the wing. So yeah, I quite like the Højlund gamble, I must say, and the fixtures are good. It's quite surprising you've got 3 Man United in there though.
Man United's fixtures are really good after the Brighton one, to be honest.
Yeah,
that was the only reason, to be honest. I thought I looked at it and went, then I can transfer them out when the fixtures change. It's just that.
Yeah, I think it's a good lineup actually. Well done.
I think my nervous point about it is, I think firstly would be Turner, only because I know they've just signed another keeper, haven't they? Forest, that might be a first choice. I don't know if they're going to be or not. Just he makes me a bit nervous. Gusto, I don't know when James is back, but again, I kind of agree on the Newcastle things with Scott. I like both those picks. You just hope you're not unlucky with rotation, basically. And then, yeah, I like Højlund as a pick. I think he's going to play. Definitely makes Man United better. With Anthony obviously not coming back now for a period of time, then we've got Rashford and Garnacho who both play off the left generally and are better. So, and Sancho apparently just needs to be told training is an hour earlier than it actually is to make sure he turns up on time. So he's obviously not flavour of the month. So Bruno might end up playing on the right, but either way, we might even play Martial out there because he has done before. I think Højlund's going to play.
When's Mount back? Because they might play Mount on the wing.
Yeah, well, Mount would be probably the ideal player to put on there, actually, because he's done it a lot with Chelsea, but I don't think he's fit yet. I don't think he's back till game week 8, I think, or something like that. But anyway, someone again to keep an eye on there. But yeah, those are the only players that concern me a little bit. I'll put mine up now because I looked at City's next run of games and thought, if I was wildcarding right now for the next 3 weeks, they've got West Ham away, Forest at home, and Wolves away. And I feel like I'd want to have at least 2, if not 3 players. I just think Alvarez is just playing unbelievably well. The rotation would worry me, for the Champions League, but I think that's key. We've got Rashford. Both of us have got Rashford in here. Both obviously had Salah. Do you have Sterling as well, Baz? You had Sterling, didn't you? Yeah. So Maddison I had in for Spurs. Have Sheffield United at home, which is obviously a really good fixture. Then they do have 2 tough ones: Arsenal away and Liverpool at home. But then again, they go on a good run after that: Luton away, Fulham at home, Palace away, Chelsea at home, Wolves away, and then Villa at home all the way to game week 14. And the problem, this is the biggest problem with wildcarding right now, is that you have to look so far ahead in terms of the fixtures and the run, because you won't get another wildcard till game week 19 at the earliest, and you probably won't want to use it then anyway. You'd want to try and save it a little bit later on for when it gets a little bit more complicated, as we all know what it's going to, with double game weeks and this, that, and the other, and working it in with bench boosts. If you want to maximize that, you probably want to save a little bit later. So I've tried to look a little bit longer term with this team as well. But yeah, I've gone for podcast listeners, sorry, Leno in goal and Areola as my backup. They rotate really well moving forward, so I've got those 2 guys in there. I'm not a massive fan of having Leno. Areola will probably be the main keeper. West Ham's fixtures get really quite good. Game week 7 or 8, something like that. Chilwell, Guardiola, Botman, and then I've got Al Dakil and Kabore on the bench. Just 2 cheap 4 million players. Both got double game weeks there. Rashford, Maddison, Salah, Sterling, and Gordon again. I think Gordon's a good pick. Haaland, Alvarez, and then I've gone for Archer on the bench. And this team's got 0.5 in the bank, so I can upgrade one of Al Dakil or Kabore to a 4.5 quite comfortably. I just felt Trippier was too much at 6.5. I felt like he was too expensive, but his form back end of last season is not worth it for me. He didn't return at all well in the second half. It was unbelievable in the first half of the season, but second half just didn't seem like the sort of player that he was. I don't know what you think about that, Baz. Did that not worry you with putting him in?
It does worry me, but if he starts with these couple of fixtures and he hits flames, everyone will be going, I need to get Trippier in. I need to get Trippier in. So you need to get in there before the time. And that's why I did it, because obviously I've got Botman already in my team, but obviously I'm not wildcarding. But that's what I'll be looking at, is potentially getting an expensive defender in there, like, for example, like a Trent Alexander-Arnold. I even contemplating looking at getting Robertson in as well, but he hasn't really been looking as dangerous as he has in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I settled on Trippier, because of Newcastle's fixtures going forward. And I think because he's that much of a leader at Newcastle, and obviously the old club changed when Trippier came, I think that's why I don't think he's going to be potentially a rotation risk, because of who else is going to play right back for him.
No, fair play. Fair play on that one. It's just the price, 6.5. It just takes a lot off the.
I agree.
Scott, do you pick any holes in that other than the obvious pet rotation?
No, I think the way Spurs have started the season, if you could try and get one of Maddison or Son into a wildcard team, absolutely would be doing that. Like I said, I quite like Baz's, but I would say one takeaway from yours is to get one of those 2, to be honest with you. They're looking really good attacking, but one of those 2 would be the only 2 I right now would want to get into my team. And I'm guessing Maddison's the cheaper option.
Yeah, 7.8 and Son's 9.1, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
So here's a breakdown of the fixtures from now until game week 20. So again, this was one of Lego Mane's graphics. I just thought was really good from this perspective. So the fainter blue lines on this screen, which are after game week 8 and game week 15, are times which are relatively commonplace within the community. We're talking about doing wildcards. There is the international break after game week 12, which is another chance to do that, and didn't put another blue line on. But game week 8, game week 9, and game week 16 are the times when people then would be wildcarding after game week 8 and game week 15. But for me personally, I think the fixtures change after game week 7, going into game week 8 a little bit more preferably. to do wildcards, and I know then we have a game week 8 wildcard and then an international break at that point, which you never know who's going to get injured and this, that, and the other. But for me, the fixtures move around quite a lot, and I've got a couple of wildcard teams to show you in a bit that I would do in game week 8 if I ended up doing that. But so we've got City's really great run of fixtures here: West Ham away, Forest at home, Wolves away, before they have a horrendous run of fixtures: Arsenal away, Brighton at home, Man United away, Bournemouth at home game week 11, Chelsea away, Liverpool at home, Spurs at home, and then Villa away, all the way up to game week 16. So if you have a look at that run of fixtures, I have done one wildcard team here without Haaland in it. I know. But I'll show you it, because it might make you talk about it. Again, Arsenal's run, they only have one good fixture in 4 after game week 7, sorry. But they have Everton, Spurs and Bournemouth before it. And, I won't talk through every single one of these, but you can see here that Manchester United sort of straddle it. They've got a really good run of fixtures from 6 all the way until 13, so they're okay. Newcastle's good run starts now, so if you wildcarded then, still get them. Liverpool is a big one. They have a really good fixture run from game week 9. And I feel like from 9 through to 16, going without Salah is going to be very scary. Which again, like, you're going to captain him in pretty much all these games. Even when Haaland, Bournemouth at home, Liverpool have Luton. You've got a lot of captaincy there. Anything that stands out to you there, Scott, in terms of fixture runs? Times when you want to be hopping on and off teams. What I've just discussed in terms of wild card. Any takeaways from these fixtures?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the things just on the wild card in general is, I think I kind of panicked a bit last year and wildcarded too soon. So one of the things I'm not going to be doing is just, I think I wildcarded last year and changed like 5 players. I just don't think that's enough for when you wildcard. So yeah, I think when Man City's run, I think you've got to bear in mind that it's Man City. And don't get me wrong, that would probably be me taking a Man City defender away. But you still want probably 2 attacking assets, maybe an Alvarez and a Haaland, or a midfielder, Grealish, if he's catching fire, and Foden, etc., etc. I agree about the Liverpool run as well. Salah's started pretty solidly this season. And Newcastle is one to keep an eye on. I'm not jumping straight on Newcastle now, just because they've not looked that good the last few games. So it's a bit of a wait and see on that one. If they'd carried on from what they did on game week 1 onwards, it'd be like, hell yeah, let me get like a Newcastle asset or 2 in now. But yeah, one to keep an eye on that one with that nice run. You can have a little look at Brentford and Sheffield United, and if things are kicking off, then you've still got 5 out of 6 game weeks there that are really, really nice. But yeah, that there would probably be sort of my main takeaways on that. To be honest with you, like I said, your Spurs one's an interesting one because, like you say, they've been a really good watch this season. Sheffield United is a good fixture, but then the fixtures go really crap, but then the fixtures go really good. So I still wouldn't mind probably just keeping hold of like a Maddison throughout that, to be honest with you.
Baz, any takeaways on timings of wildcard or anything else that you just wanted to mention off all of these fixture runs?
I think the timing for me is around game week 8 and 9, because that's when some of the teams that I haven't got players on look good, like Villa. Brighton's fixtures start looking good again. West Ham's fixtures, if they're still playing really well. And you want to be getting onto players like Bowen, Matoma, who I transferred out the other week, or Diaby, Villa, or potentially even a Watkins if he catches flames again for these next couple of games coming up. So for me, I've been probably looking at wildcard in 8 and 9, and trying to get a few of them players in. And also, this is a good graph to obviously pre-plan your transfers as well. So if you're wildcarding and go, right, I'll put so-and-so in, but then the fixtures change at game week 12, then I'm going to go for an Arsenal player because they've got Burnley, Brentford, Wolves, Luton. That's where you've got to look as well. You've got to forward plan your transfers, as you touched upon earlier, Alex, but that's obviously my take on it.
You've got some really interesting runs of fixtures in here, actually, and they're not normally as as sort of clear as this. Normally they're a little bit more bitty, basically, in terms of fixtures. But Man United from game week 6 basically have 7 out of 8 fixtures in a row that are really good. Arsenal from game week 12 have 4 in a row. Liverpool have 7 out of 8 in a row that are really good from 9 through to 16. And then we go down to play teams like Palace that we haven't mentioned yet, 11 through 15. There's some really cheap assets there. A defender easily in, like an Eze. West Ham, Bowen must be on everyone's radar for sort of game week 10 onwards. Again, this is one of the reasons why Areola will probably be one of the keepers you would put in your wild card, because they've got a great fixture and they've got 7 out of 8 fixtures in a row that are really good. So there are some quite big, quite definite swings that are quite obvious. So it's hard to do differential transfers within that because they seem to be relatively obvious what we're going to do. But still, some really big chunks of fixtures in here that of the teams you want to target. And then after game week 15 into game week 16 was another time which was potentially important to wildcard. City then go back to having a really good run, even though they blank in 18. Chelsea start having a really good run then again at that point. And it's then quite easy to hop off a lot of the teams here that maybe haven't done so well.
I think if you say it's going to be quite hard to get differentials, and I kind of disagree because there's that many out there. Me and you might bring the same player in, but there's about 35 other players in the podcast league. Do you know what I mean? So like there's that, especially with like that, we always say every year, that mid range. That's what I think that on the long run, that's what wins you your league, isn't it? At the end of the season, jumping on your Matomas, your Bowens, your people like this Ben Rahmans in years gone by. That's jumping on them quick enough. So just getting the right kind of differential in is pretty key. But there's plenty out there, so I don't think everyone's going to be getting the same ones in.
It's a great point. I really like that. Like for example, what Baz has done with the wild card for this week, getting on like Hoyland now. Like it's that. It could fall on your ass, man. Could get no points. I mean, obviously, I know you're not doing that because you're not wildcarding this week, Baz. But if you were doing that, like I like that as a move as a wildcard because also it's kind of low risk. It's a 7 mil job, and there are other people here that you could move to quite easily if you needed to. But also, if you do jump on him now and he does really well, you're ahead of the game, and that's where you again with that being ahead of the game, your captains and exactly what you said about mid-range midfielder, Scott. That is where you win and lose your league. Sorry, Baz, I cut you off there.
Yeah. Plus, as well, with 7 million, I can easily just transfer and put Alvarez in because I've only got one City asset.
Yeah.
So,
exactly. Yeah, totally agree with that, mate. I think that's exactly the right thing. Couple of little wildcard drafts for if we do it at game week 8, and then we'll have a look at a few more of the teams in more depth that we're going to look at moving forward. But this was my one with Erling in it. So for me, you just have to have Salah because of that. So it had to be something that I could make work with Salah and Haaland. I managed to get Trippier into this as well, which as a high value. But again, we could maybe bring him down to something a little bit cheaper if we need to again spread the funds. But this was an idea of having 3 Villa players. Oh, sorry, for podcast listeners, I'll start from the back. Vicario and Areola, the 2 keepers. Spurs have still kept quite a few clean sheets so far this season, so considering they've been quite exciting to watch as well. Cash, Botman, Trippier, Kabore, and Bayer. Just 2 cheap 4 million defenders who play most weeks. The midfield of Salah, Maddison, Sarr, Rashford, and Diaby. So a couple of cheaper ones in there, and then Watkins, Haaland, and Archer. So 3 Villa, 3 Spurs, 2 Newcastle, broken it down like that. And then just before we break that down, this was the one I did without Haaland. So without Haaland, let's say, obviously, for example, here that Trent is fit because he hopefully will be by game week 8. Vicario and Areola stay the same. The only changes actually are Trippier, Sarr, and Haaland become Trent, Son, and Isak. And I've got 0.9 in the bank, so you can make a few tweaks or changes with that. Consider it's the heart. We'll touch on this a little bit later on in the season, for maybe a few more weeks, about the Haaland captaincy and captain matrix and this, that, and the other. If you can go with that or not, and if that's insane. But these teams seem very different to the wildcard teams are doing this week. And that's what really puts me off doing a wildcard this week, because in 4 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time, you can watch something that's very different. That's why I ran this exercise that I did, and I did it because I'm sad and love FPL and.
It's quite interesting. I don't know why I expected to be in this team, but I was really underwhelmed. And like, there's not much more you can put in. I don't know if I'm wanting like a prime Wayne Rooney and like a Henri just to appear. But I was pretty underwhelmed for this team. I'm not gonna lie.
Dull, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is dull. But you have managed to get Salah, Maddison, Son, and Rashford into a midfield.
I think what's scary is you say without Haaland. I feel like we're just at a point, and I know you've just done this, and I know it's just for to see, which is really great. But we're at a point where it's not without Haaland; it's without Haaland as your captain. Because as people last game week, the ones that didn't captain him, that's put them back a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, painful. Let's be honest. Let's have a look at a couple of teams in a little bit more detail in terms of statistics. So we were talking about Newcastle. They have a really good fixture run. A lot of people are looking at these guys this week. They have underwhelmed so far. They have had quite tough fixtures though. So I think it's definitely worth looking at the players and what they've done so far. So Isak's been their top performer at 19 points. So he's had 2 goal involvements, both being goals. Wilson's also scored 2 goals coming off the bench. Gordon's got 1, Barnes and Tonali are the goal scorers so far. They're the ones who have really shone in terms of points. Lads, do you know what I'll do? I'll do minutes to midfielders as well. We'll have a look at this. But who stood out from you from Newcastle from an FPL perspective this season? Anyone? Scott?
From an Gordon, to be honest with you, obviously. Probably just on top 2 there, Isaac and Gordon, to be completely honest. Barnes is never going in your FPL team because he's not starting games. He's coming off the bench and, he's providing things. Tonali got a return in like the first game week. He looked okay, but I think from an FPL perspective, the only person I'd probably touch right now is Gordon, to be honest with you. And I think he's really good value as well, isn't he? Still
5.5, yeah, really good.
I don't want to agree with Scott, but I have to, unfortunately. Yeah, Almiron's had spells where he's looked good, but he just hasn't had the end product. Whereas Gordon has spells, but you can afford to have not the end products when you're looking at 5.5 midfielder. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of like a budget midfielder that you think, yeah, I'll just put him in because I want so-and-so in my team. So for me, that's who I would potentially look at getting in, and that's who I'm probably going to get in because I'm saving a transfer this week, transferring, and I'm probably going to get a Man U player and a Newcastle player in, and I think Gordon's going to be one of them. So that's what obviously I'm going to look at doing in the future regarding that. But yeah, probably just Gordon for me. I think Isak's he goes off hot and cold a bit too much for me, and he doesn't do enough for me to get into my forwards because, well, I'm saying I've got Jackson, but I think there's other forwards that could potentially be a lot better, like Nunes at the moment. Whereas in your wildcard team, instead of Watkins, I probably would have Nunes in there because I think he's going to start more. I know everyone's saying he's a rotation risk and that, but I don't think he is no more after he came on and just changed the game against Newcastle.
I get that with the Nunes thing because I thought then last week he just looked like he did last season. Like then he did really well in that Newcastle game, but then he just hit the post, missed a couple of chances. I know he was unlucky on the stretch at the back post on that other one, but like I don't know. I know he's in another league, but jury's still out for me on Darwin. I know he's had an unbelievable moment, but in Newcastle, but if you'd have put one in the back of the net last week, I'd have been with you about. But I'm still juryed out for me on him. Scott, do you want to break the tie? Because I'm a no, Baz is a yes. Darwin, just briefly on
that. Yeah, jury's still out.
Yeah. I think in terms of XGI, Wilson and Barnes are definitely slightly skewed from a couple of counter attacks that they've had that Barnes should have Lee squared the board to Wilson. But yeah, Gordon's on top of all the statistics. Botman's amazing value. I think he's the only other one at 4.5 if he's fit that I'd be looking at bringing into Fabian Schär at 5 mil isn't too bad either. So I think it'd be one of those two with. Because the thing is, I can see quite a few clean sheets coming from Newcastle. I'll touch on clean sheets before we move on to Fulham because we're not going to talk about clean sheets with Fulham really generally. So here, it's just it's a statistic that I took off FPL Wire. There's been some really good content out there actually this last 2 weeks. I feel like everyone's had a bit of time to really think about it. I know our friend Sam Danby Bailey, a friend of the podcast, was on the Always Cheating podcast, wasn't he? Hosted it with Josh, or I can't remember Josh or Brandon. I think it was Josh, wasn't it? And a podcast that I think is really, really good. Actually, I really like the Always Cheating podcast. It's a great one to listen to when you go for a run or it's on in the background because they don't take it. It's not super heavy in terms of statistics. It's like it's really conversational. So worth giving that a listen to. The FPL Wire podcast is great. Zofar Praz and Late Riser do that, which is 3 people that if you are into FPL, you'll know who they are. And they came up with this graphic about clean sheets. So there've only been 14 so far this season, which is the lowest that we've had going into after game week 4. I know we've had one fewer match, but that we've had just since 2014. And a lot of people have put players in their teams before to try and get. This is where the majority of your points come from defenders as well. Like the attacking returns don't seem to be coming in thick and fast unless you had Gusto when they played Luton, but they seem to be coming in a little bit slower. And it was just interesting to see that the clean sheet numbers down from last year and the year before and all the other years actually so far.
I think that's because football's evolved. I think everyone loves this inverted wing back, and I think it just creates space around the back for the old-fashioned wingers that stay close to the touchline. And I think that's what's obviously happened with the clean sheets. No one's really keeping them because they want to overload the centre of midfield.
I think if you look at the top teams as well, you've got an attacking mindset with all their managers, pretty much. Gone on the days of Mourinho's and Conte's that win games by keeping clean sheets. So yeah, I'm not surprised by them. I very rarely now will see a fixture and think not bothered about watching that. Where in years gone by, I have. So I think it's a good time for the Premier League at the minute.
One of the interesting things was when I looked at the statistics from last season to the season before, was that the clean sheet numbers were down last season on the season before, but not by miles. But there was a much bigger spread. There wasn't like City keeping 21 clean sheets, Liverpool keeping 20, like there have been before where you would double up on those defences because you were going to get loads of points from them. There were all like 60. I mean, Man United did the Golden Glove last year, for God's sake. That's just ridiculous when you think about it. So yeah, I think overall what we're looking at is not the point from FPL that I'm getting at. Is don't spend so much money on your defence at the moment. Doesn't really seem to be any point. Chilwell was a good player to jump on, but other than that, there's not really anyone doing any massive pulling up any trees, is there? So don't spend millions on that when you've got some obvious value in midfield to spend.
Are Trent and Trippier two of the most expensive defenders in the game?
They are.
And you would just all have them in your Wildcards.
Trips game week, same with Trent. The thing is with Trent, it's obviously he returned last week, and then it's just a wait and see for me with him, because he's going to do that occasional game weeks. He's going to just deliver, but yeah, is he going to do it as consistently? Who knows? But yeah, good point, Scott. Spend your money elsewhere.
He's not really quick. He's probably not one you want to be jumping at now while Van Dijk's back here, is he?
No. Fulham. So they've got a decent fixture on. So I thought we'd have a really quick look at them because we're probably not going to buy any of them. But
it's really funny, isn't it? Like the first team I always look for is who's playing Luton. And I thought, oh, Fulham. A minute ago when I just looked.
Literally, Luton at home. Who would we jump on? Well, Decordova Reed has started 3 games, come to the sub once, and he's got the highest XGI of 1.5. So yeah, not terrible. But then we've got Jimenez, who started all 4 games so far. He's returned no goals off an XG of 0.25.
Yikes.
Yeah. He's expected to score 1 goal for all you mathematicians out there in every 16 games.
You're better off getting Mitrovic in.
You are. You basically are. You better have put in Kunku in, who's injured. Just at the moment, it seems that way. Who's scored the goals then for them? Well, we've got one player that I would say is Andreas Pereira at 5.5 mil. He has got 1 goal. He has been creating a few chances, but no big ones. Raul Jimenez created 2 big chances actually. That's interesting. Didn't even know he'd done that. But yeah, no one really to mention, lads. Fulham. I think Andres is probably a guy to keep an eye on. That's all I would have said. Leno is in my wildcard team. He rotates well with Areola.
Obviously, I've been watching Wales over the international, obviously. And Harry Wilson, for me, would be one to keep an eye out. Won't get him in the team, just keep an eye on him. That's what I'm going to say.
Like that. Right, let's go to Forest. That's probably going to be a little bit more interesting. What do you think, Scott?
What's that, sorry?
Do you think Forest are going to be more interesting?
Sorry, it just completely cut out then. Sorry.
I said, do you think Forest are going to be more interesting than Fulham to talk about? That's what I said.
Yes. They just beat Chelsea, didn't they? So yes, I do.
Plus, I think Scott's face was a bit squiffed because I mentioned Harry Wilson.
It's an horrendous shout.
See?
Let's have a look at Forest. So their fixtures are, they've got Burnley at home next, then they do have City, then they have Brentford at home, Palace away, and Luton at home. So they've got 4 of their next 5 are pretty decent, especially this week. And Taiwo Awoniyi has already got 3 goals this season. He's £6.6 million. He's got 3 goals off an XG of 1.71, so he's outperforming that. He's doing really quite well. He's already got an assist as well, 25 points. Some people have been considering him against Alvarez because they're very similar in terms of price to put in their teams. But him versus Morris and Archer is another striker. What do you think of Orny? Is he someone that we can consider?
Yeah.
Yes, that's don't lie.
Yeah, I think he's looked good. He's looked good as well, hasn't he? I like how he's a big, powerful presence up there. And he seems to me like a confidence player, and he's returned in like the last 10, 11 Premier League games or something. I know his scoring run ended, but he got the assist in the last game. So yeah, I like him, and he's going to play, isn't he? He's on form.
Absolutely. Anyone else stick out for you from Forest, Baz? You being a Nottingham boy.
Bolly and Aurier. I think them 2 are on my differential defenders. I think with them, Bolly looks like he was when he played for Wolves, and he's returning more like he did when he were at Wolves. And Aurier's whipping in crosses like Beckham-esque, as I mentioned the other week. So, and he's actually defending pretty better than what he did before. Gibbs White as well. I could probably go on for a bit more. Lange and also they signed Origi as well. It was worth $5 million as a centre forward. I thought it could be a potential option. Probably not going to start in front of Awoniyi, but $5 million option for an old Premiership player that's had experience could be worth a punt if he gets games.
I think that's exactly. I think he's just not going to play over Awoniyi, but yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying about Gibbs White. He's also on penalties, isn't he? So somebody again we can be keeping an eye on. And I was trying to look at what Gibbs White ownership was. He was on my list, and I haven't written down what his ownership was. It was 1.9%. Gibbs White. So write him down on your list of midfielders, Scott, for the draft we're going to do in a minute, because he's definitely somebody you can look at. I did have
one to probably stay away from is Harry Toffolo for Forest.
Yeah.
Can I just say something really quickly? Why do all these people start betting and have like loads of bets and they play for Scunthorpe? Are we that much of a boring place to like? play for and live in that everyone has to do bets.
You just they like to bet against Scunthorpe when they're not playing. I think that's the main one, isn't it?
I think someone was if someone had a bet on the Buxton win, they'd be gutted at the weekend. Anyway, that's not FPL.
It's you waterlogged the pitch yourself. I heard all the fans just started getting their hose pipes out.
Yeah, it's my mum kicking off on it anyway.
That's well done, you taking the hose pipe down. Luton, really good run of fixtures. They've got a game week 5, game week 6, and then a double game week in game week 7. If you are looking at wildcarding in game week 8, please don't laugh too hard, but you have got Fulham away, Wolves at home, followed by double game week of Everton away and Burnley at home. Let's all be honest, if we had Haaland having that double game week, he'd be our triple captain that week. So let's have a look at Mr. Morris. Morris is the name on everyone's lips at 5.5 million with a great run of fixtures, an XGI of 1.6. He's had 2 goal involvements, so he's outperforming his XGI. One of them was a penalty, of course. That was his goal. And then 1 assist, 15 points so far. Is he somebody we could look at, Baz?
Definitely, yeah. Obviously, if you've got João Pedro, can get Morrissey, can't you? Just transfer. Easy. Brighton's fixture's not looking good going forward, and he's in and out of the squad. Easy decision, isn't it? Just get Morrison just for a couple of week punt. It might be a third striker that might sit on the bench, but in a day with Pep's roulette, if you've got a City player, he doesn't play or is not in the squad, get Morrison and you might obviously get some points. So,
Scott,
yeah.
Thoughts on Morrison? Any other Luton assets?
No.
Okay. Do you think Morris will be a bad shout though for people, or do you think?
What health have we got at 5.5? It would be my question.
Not that João Pedro. Not that many other players, to be fair. At 5. This is probably
I'd rather keep João Pedro on a worse run than Morris for now. That might change, but I think João Pedro's looked sharper.
And another player, obviously, you're probably not going to get a Luton player at 4.5, but Giles has looked really good down that left.
Again, but this is the important thing here is that these are a couple of people that you could have a punt on for a couple of weeks. If you are wildcarding in game week 8, which is when I'm potentially going to be looking at wildcarding, you can take the gamble. Just stick him in. Why not? If you're going to play him in double game week, it's not a problem.
I think, you wouldn't bring him in as a transfer, though, would you?
Yeah, I wouldn't take any hits.
But I think it's a waste of a transfer bringing one in. But I'd absolutely agree with a wild card.
Yeah, if you're bringing one in though, instead of just doing kind of nothing, and then you're going to wild card them out in game week 8. That's what I mean. To be fair, I'm probably not going to do it, but I do have João Pedro. So Morris is somebody that I'm genuinely considering bringing into my team for a transfer for a couple of weeks, especially for that pretty soft double game week. It's just so low impact if you get it wrong. Just wildcard him out in game week 8. Doesn't matter, does it? And if you can spend the transfer on somebody else, I completely agree, Scott. I'm not going to not get Son because I really want Morris. let's not all be silly about it. But yeah, I do think that if you've got the transfer, why not? Let's just you can punt on that. And the final team we were going to just discuss before we do our differential pick was Chelsea. And the only reason we were going to just touch on Chelsea, we talked about Chelsea quite a lot, to be fair, because it's quite obvious, really, the players that to go for. We got it down to Chilwell, Sterling, and potentially Jackson, if not Gusto. You've got Enzo's and whoever you can go for as cheaper midfielders if you wanted to use them. My main thing I was going to say is Jackson as an owner for a couple of weeks. You are an owner, right? For Jackson, mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you feel? How do you feel about him right now?
It's a Nunes, isn't it, from last year? He looks really good, but then when he's in front of goal, he obviously did a system of it and just knocked it over the bar from Sterling, tapped it to him. I just couldn't believe that miss. I don't know why he stretched, but he's got everything about him, but he's not a number 9 for me. He's more of a winger. I don't think he can do that centre-forward role. He makes some good movements, but he's not as prolific as other strikers out there. So like I say, obviously I'm banking a transfer, so I'm probably going to go Hoyland for Jackson next week.
It was a bad miss from Jackson, wasn't it? Do you think he was sorry? Do you think he was sorry for that miss?
I think he said sorry, Miss Jackson, to it. Yeah. He said sorry to his mum.
Unbelievable. Highest for non-pen XG in the league, Jackson, so far this season. With 3. Yeah, crazy. Just to put it into context, his non-pen XG is 3 and he scored 1. Haaland's is 2.8 and he scored 6. Just Haaland's a beast. And also just to compare him to, I know that Scott referred to Edouard as having probably the best moment he's ever had in his life, or whatever it was at the beginning of the season, which I did like. 3 goals off a non-pen XG of 2.63.
Great player.
Having a great run, isn't he? So he's not doing too bad.
He's 5.5 as well. There you go.
5.5. You see, could be moved for Edouard if his fixtures were better. But yeah, Jackson, Haaland, Edouard, Ferguson, Bowen, Dan Juma's right up there as well, with Decore, and then Maddison, Salah, and Alvarez. That's the non-pen XG table so far for this year. Let's get on to our 5-a-side draft, Baz. Should we do that?
Let's go.
Let's do it. Well, we've given Scott a few freebies of who he might want to go for.
Because he's got first pick as well.
He's got first pick of who we think we might go for.
I had this person. Have they just gone up?
It's a test of how much Scott was listening to us. So, Scott, who's your first pick?
Should be listening. Is it under 10%? Is one of them, isn't it?
Yeah, under 10, under 1, and then everyone else is under 5.
Yes.
So 1 under 10.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for someone that I think we've been mentioned. I'm going to go for Diaby for 1 under 10.
Diaby. He was top of my list at 9.6% owned, so I'll have to cross him off as well. Not top, he was second on my list behind one other player who I think Baz is just about to mention.
I'm going for my under 10, and I am, because there's not a lot of keepers out there, Vicario.
Oh, he's gone for Vicario under 10. I like that. I'm going to go for Awoniyi. I had to get him in at 4.9%. He's under 5% owned. He's under 5% owned.
Naughty boy.
Scott.
Oh, dear me.
We need to get a clock on this.
I know. So we've got how many per position?
2 midfielders, 1 striker, 1 defender, 1 keeper.
All right. I'm going to go for... I should really prepare more for this, but I'm going to go for this person here. That goes by the name of Slodbly.
You've gone for Zaboslai. I like it. 4.5% owned.
Yeah.
He was on my list. Baz?
Who's not?
Gabriel Jesus.
Oh, he's got it. There he is. Jesus under 5. Okay. Like that. Scott, I'm going to upset you, I think. I'm going to go for Anthony Gordon at 1.3% owned.
Yeah, good shout. Well done.
Thanks very much. That's what I've gone for there. A couple of others I think about. But yeah, so Scott, over to you again.
Over to me again.
We're about to do this quickly to put pressure on you, I think.
Yeah, I don't even know what I've got left here.
You got a defender, goalkeeper, and attacker.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. Let's go for Andy Robertson.
He was on my list from a defender.
Yeah,
I'm picking a defender as well, and I'm going for Zinchenko.
You love Zinny, don't you?
I do, man.
And I'm going to go for Morgan Gibbs White at 1.9% owned.
So it got to be 1 or under 1?
Under
you've got a 1 player that's under 1% owned.
Right, should we do 1% for him as well?
Yeah,
1% or under.
Yeah, 1% under. Yeah, 1% or under. So there's quite a few at 1%, isn't there?
Yeah, I hate them all, but there is a few at 1%. Jesus. Let's go for it. Raul Jimenez.
Oh my god.
He's
and they got Lewin at home. Come on.
Oh god. Morris was 1.5. Bath.
Left goalie.
Kulusevski.
Kula was nice at 1.5%, isn't he? I think I'm also going to use my over 5% owned on my goalkeeper. I'm going to go for Sanchez for Chelsea at 5.4%. And Scott, who have you got left? You've got a keeper left. Is that what
I've
you've got?
got a keeper under 5% is what I've got left, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everyone can just agree with that.
You do?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Is everyone?
Do you want some options here?
I've got the options here, man. It's all good.
Have you got? I've got 2 written down still for this one, which is good.
Who you got?
I've got 3.
Have you got 3 still on? Have you? Must have missed one.
Oh, I might go for this person. Who they're playing? Oh, yeah. Go on, then. We'll go Trafford.
Yeah, Trafford was on
He
the list.
was under mine, yeah.
Bang on 1%.
It's only 1, so he's 1% owned, isn't he?
Yeah, bang on 1%. Yeah.
Oh, crap.
I like it.
I mentioned him.
Keep it. That's
I
great.
know, but I've used my 1% on Raul Jimenez.
Hilarious.
I've mentioned him already. I'm going for Harry Wilson.
Under
one.
I love that. And I will finish off by going for Luca Dean.
Nice.
He's 3.3% owned. So
who's your under 1?
Oh, that was I need to my under 1.
Oh,
boo!
Cheat!
What a cheat!
Scumbag!
What an absolute cheating scumbag!
And I've got 2, 1 and under.
Oh God! What I am? What a scumbag! I'm going to go for Joel Matip at 0.4% then.
Jesus.
So I've got Sanchez in goal, Matip at the back, Gordon and Morgan Gibbs-White in midfield, and Awoniyi up front. Baz?
Vicario in goal, Zinni at defence, midfield of Kulusevski and Harry Wilson, forward Jesus.
Baz, do you want to read Scott's out for him? Because he's already forgotten.
Scott's is Trafford in goal, defender is Robbo, and midfield is Diaby and Dominic, and attacker is Raul Jimenez.
Scott's picking first next week again. So let's go on to
Harry Wilson over here.
Oh, that's very true, yeah. I tried to have more
Got
players.
loads at home.
Yeah, no, if he plays. Deadline 11 o'clock on Saturday, the 16th of September. Early kickoff is Wolves against Liverpool at 12:30. We've got Villa versus Palace, Fulham, Luton, United, Brighton, Spurs, Sheffield United, West Ham, Man City, Newcastle, Brentford, and then on Sunday we've got Bournemouth, Chelsea, Everton, Arsenal, and then Monday night football is Nottingham Forest at home to Burnley. Some good fixtures this weekend. Captaincy picks. It's not an easy week, is it?
I think if you have a Sean or a Madison, probably go with them, to be honest with you.
Because I think that away, I mean, Haaland did score twice against West Ham away last season.
Tough fixture, though, isn't it?
It is this season. It's tougher this year than it was last year already. Just seems to deliver constantly, doesn't he? But yeah, I think Spurs are there. But Baz, anyone else that sticks out for you, maybe?
I've got Salah. I know it's the early kickoff.
They've been quite entertaining so far this year.
I was going to say, last week was good.
Got beat by him last season at Wolves. I think Liverpool are going to at least get 3 there, I think. So
has Salah been away? He must have been on international.
Probably, yeah. I think my comeback from Saudi because his deal didn't go through.
Thank God.
Are they still doing AFCON qualifiers, weren't they, as well?
Probably, yeah.
That was one thing. I think Arsenal maybe as well away at Everton potentially. I know they lost there last season, didn't they? So other option maybe if Saka, Chelsea away at Bournemouth. They're just some really hard fixtures for these teams playing away from home. Spurs at home. I think Son playing through the middle in particular would be a player that I'd be looking at getting a captaincy if I had him. Yeah, Maddison will be an option. Then your default's Haaland, isn't it? Because he still just continues to deliver. We had a question that we wanted to pose to everybody, and when we were talking about these players that they're really highly owned and do really well as season keepers, what to do with them in the draft format of the game when they're not performing. Scotty, over to you on this one as one of our resident draft experts. What do you think of the what would you do if you have these players that just aren't performing that are supposedly season keepers?
It's a really interesting one, isn't it? Because you can get really stubborn and keep hold of, especially if one of your first round or second round picks. You've got your obvious ones. Like for me personally, my first pick this season was De Bruyne. Yeah, I've cursed him again because last time he was my first pick, he got injured. It was an easy one for me. I'm not. You could keep hold of him till whenever he's back. For me, it's a waste of a position in a Premier League that rotates a lot. So I feel like you're just wasting a position there. So you get rid of your players that are long-term injuries for me for that one, regardless of who they are, to be honest with you. And then then you look at your big players, and for me it comes down to rotation and whether they are playing. So if someone, I'm looking down that list there, I'll be honest, I would be still holding on to all of those players, probably up to a Gabriel Jesus, who to be honest, if you've held him on to now, you're probably going to keep holding him now he's back fit. But he's one that's surprisingly not just come straight back into the team. So that's one to sort of keep a lookout on and try and not get stubborn by someone just on the bottom there. Foden's always one. That is a tricky one because he rotates a lot, and when he hauls big, but he's also midfield is a position we say it every season. There's so many midfield options out there, especially if you're in maybe a small draft league where there's maybe, I know in our league, I think there's 6 of us in it. So there's loads of options. You can get rid of Foden, and sometimes it's better to get in maybe an Almiron or someone like that is going to play week in, week out. So don't get stubborn on your bigger players and keep a look at the rotation and if they're actually playing. I know really quick last thing from me, like Nunes was one. I got him in. He started on the bench. I got rid of him because he wasn't playing. He then came on and did the thing against Newcastle, which was great. So I then got him back. But he was one that I'm not just going to keep all of regard. And one thing really quickly is you can think, Nunes has got really nice fixtures coming up. But if he's not playing, if he's not starting games, there's no point. That's me.
Yeah, definitely. I think with the Foden thing as well, what you're talking about is right, because they are quite explosive, his hauls, but his overall points tallies aren't exactly knockout. 135, 137, and 142 were the last 3 seasons. But he's been getting 20 points in a couple of games, and 18s, and So if you have him at the right time, I completely agree. If he's getting rotated, he's getting dropped a lot. You need to move him on and get rid of him. Someone, for example, like Kai Havertz was somebody here that, some people might have put in the beginning of the season. He's been playing in the midfield 3. I mean, he just doesn't look any better than what he was at Chelsea, to be honest. So he's a get rid of and a no. Nkunku was a long-term injury, a get rid of him. Gakpo, again, one of these higher-owned players, just isn't delivering, moving him on. I think Jackson's an interesting one as well. If you've got a small league and you've got a lot of options, if you've got a league of 10 players and your strikers are a short, a rarity, so you've got to keep hold of these sort of players. But yeah, and I agree with everything you've said there, Scott. Baz, anything to add on the draft chat?
No, really, it's just that the pool. If you've got a lot of players playing, then obviously the pool of available players is obviously a lot shorter. So if you're thinking of transferring someone, it's be a half decent pick or a couple of game weeks because you've got your rotation players that you can rotate around with. Don't add another rotation and then regret it in the future. For me,
you look also again at the fixture runs now. You can take the blue lines out of this now because we're not looking at wildcards with draft. You've got unlimited transfers every week or waivers, but it's about moving forward and trying to look forward and try to get on these players maybe a couple of weeks before. So, for example, let's say we're looking at, I don't know why West Ham stuck out to me then. So if we're looking at West Ham, so Sheffield United at home seems like a really good fixture. You could be looking at maybe bringing in a player, not this week, but next week, and benching him to then play him in that Sheffield United game. But if you don't, then you need to be maybe looking at getting him in game week 8 or 9 before game week 10 for that run of fixtures of 7 out of 8 that are really good. You've got to be thinking that's like 1 to 2 weeks ahead. Again, if your pool of players is bigger, then you need to be thinking probably 2 weeks ahead. And even if you're bringing them in just to sit on your bench for a week, you'd be transferring out a player that will be sitting on your bench anyway. That makes sense.
Especially if you're, and I'm sorry, just cut out a little bit, so you might mention this, but especially if did you mention about being top of the league, like top few positions in the league?
No, that was exactly the next bit, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say, like, the way the draft works is whoever's bottom of the league, they get you get the first pick, essentially, the way we've just done our little mini draft there. So if you're top of the league, you're going to find it really hard to get in the players you want to get in if you just go for them when they've either got a good fixture or they've gone to like a green flag. So you want to be looking at maybe a couple of weeks forward and think, you know what, they've got a really good fixture run coming up. I need to jump on them now before anyone else looks at them so I can guarantee to get them, especially with flags as well. If you think, oh, that person's now an orange flag, they're going to be probably fit in a couple of weeks. You need to get them in early if you're top of the league.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it makes a big difference. So I think it was a really good point, really good question. I think we'll finish off by just a bit of international football chat, and we'll do a touch on England because I know that we're very topical after last night's game and who should play and who shouldn't play. I, for one, would like to start this conversation by saying, thank God Gareth Southgate showed a bit of personality in that interview and stuck up for Harry Maguire like that today. I thought I've been a bit. I found England really quite dull. Just generally since the World Cup, maybe a high down to a low. I don't think any of them have been really kind of inspirational in their conversation or what they've done. And I loved that Southgate came out and just basically called out everyone who's been slating him, just stuck up for his player and showed a bit of character and used the word balls in an interview about him going on that pitch. I thought it was fantastic. It made me be like, yeah, I kind of like this guy again. I think maybe I was falling out of love with him. Scott, you're Sarah Southgate's biggest fan. What do you think of England and all of that?
Yeah, big Southgate fan. Always have been. I've mentioned it before. He's given me some of the best moments of my life, genuinely. So I can, I love him for that. I think Maguire. I put it in our WhatsApp chat yesterday. I really hoped to score on the right end. Like everyone's so quick to turn around, and I'm going to get a little bit dark now, but really turn around and say like this abuse needs to stop when someone goes and kills themselves. But they always forget about it. So like Maguire's a human being. The amount of abuse and the amount of stick and the amount of ridicule he gets it's really, really crossed the line now. And it's really out of order. And yes, he gets paid ridiculous amount of money, but he's still a human being at the end of the day. So I think it's really, really harsh, the criticism he gets. And it was really like, look, he did what any other good defender would do, and he tried to block a cross that was going to probably land to their player and they're going to score anyway. It was just unfortunate that it was him. He has shown a lot of balls and a lot of minerals playing, and he's come on for Man United against Arsenal, and he has stood up and he wants to be a success at Man United. He doesn't want to go anywhere else. And I personally think the best thing for him would be to go somewhere a bit lower down and smash it in a West Ham team, for example, and do really, really well there. But yeah, really quickly, England again, was really lethargic against that Ukraine team. Maybe got caught off, maybe a little bit intimidated by the whole occasion there, but looked really, really good last night. Jude Bellingham playing where he should be playing. And I don't want Jordan Henderson anywhere near the England squad anymore, to be honest with you. I think he's gone to retire in Saudi. Let him go. To be completely honest with you, he's done well for England in the past, but I'm done with him now. Bellingham, I think someone put it in our WhatsApp group. We need to build that team now around Jude Bellingham. Really, he looks outstanding. And yeah, we played fluid football. And what I liked, we showed really good character. They came back in the game. They scored a goal. They were like putting a lot of pressure on. Actually, we withheld. We stood up and were counted for. Bit of magic from Bellingham, Harry Kane, world class finish. And beat a Scotland team that had won 10 on a row, I think, and beating teams like Spain. So yeah, I think
them and France have won every game. Just with Scotland and France have won every game in qualification so far.
Yeah,
they're on form.
Yeah, and I think we showed our strength and depth as well. You look at people like Gahey, really well. Lewis Dunk, brilliant performance from Lewis Dunk. I think the fact that he was mentioned a couple of times at how well, and he wasn't then really mentioned. That's how well he just kind of fitted into that team, really, really fantastically. Really great strength and depth. So yeah, don't get me wrong, we should be beating Scotland 3-1, but still good performance.
Outsider's perspective, Baz?
I think Southgate doesn't really help the matter with Maguire, to be honest. Why bring him on in a game where the result really is a friendly? You're winning, you're cruising, to be honest. Because I've got Southgate, a new name is you've probably seen it in the press. Slothgate. It's too slow. First off, fantastic, great movement, great play, moving the ball quicker. But then, second half, slowed it down. Scotland built momentum. Maguire came on and got obviously the stick that he shouldn't really be getting, but he should be protected by his manager. Don't bring him on in a game like that. You know what's going to happen. So for me, I think that doesn't really help matters, to be honest. But England looked really good with Foden, and Bellingham's just unbelievable. So yeah, you just like Scott mentioned, and obviously in the group chat, good build team around him, to be honest. And for me, Maguire shouldn't be in the team because he's not playing, and if he's match fit, he clears that ball. Doesn't miss kick it, he clears it. So for me, if that was any other defender who's playing week in, week out, that doesn't happen in my eyes. Being played centre off for many years, that wouldn't happen if you match fit in my eyes. And I think England have got all the players there. Probably defensively not great, but that's why obviously I shared my 11 with you guys, because that's why I went for a back three with England, because of the defensive frailties and the players that you've got. Because of that, and having Rice just sitting in front and let Bellingham just have a free roll, I think that would suit obviously England a lot better, and have Walker at one side and Stones the other. And for me, Dunk, because he played unbelievable, to be honest. He looked like he's had 50 caps, not 2. I play him in the centre, just like obviously commanding it, because he just commanded everything, and that came near him. He just won everything. Played his heart on his sleeve. Played like what Maguire played like before all the stick, and he was playing match fit. So why put Maguire in there? If you play Maguire, he's a weak link, and everyone's just going to attack him, and it shouldn't be like that. But
Scott, come back on
that. Yeah, I think we were. I think we had snippets to play where we're fast. I think the three at the backs is proving it works quite often, but I think we should be a bit braver in games like Scotland and teams around that. And I think just Rice sitting. I agree with Baz. Rice sitting, Bellingham just to do his thing really. Like I said, I don't want John Henderson anywhere near that team. Calvin Phillips should not be starting for England, and Maguire shouldn't be starting for England.
Interesting fact about Phillips: he's played 4 games. Started 4 games for City. Started 4 games for England. It's his move.
Well, I think, and my take on it is we've still got a centre half issue, but then I think the rest of the team, strength of depth, looks pretty amazing, to be honest. We can sort out that centre half issue, then I think we'll push on and
much stronger when Stones is in there as well, all around that.
Stones has got to play. Probably Stones and Dunk at the moment, isn't it? Let's be honest. Play back 4, Stones, Dunk, Walker, and for me, I'm biased. Luke Shaw's better than Chilwell for me all day long, but that's a bit biased, I think. I'm a Shaw fan. But lads, we'll wrap it up there, shall we? Thank you ever so much for joining us this week, guys. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, share the podcast with your friends. It's been great to see this year. We've had our first ever 3-figure download of a podcast this year, and it's been lovely to have everyone get involved. And we've got over 50 people now in the podcast league. So yeah, it's been lovely. I've had questions flying left, right, and centre, and yeah, it's just lovely. It makes this all worthwhile doing, and I really enjoy the chat every week. So yes, like the video, subscribe to the channel, etc., etc. Follow us on our social media platforms, Pod, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. And thank you so much, guys, and bye for now.